Jason Walker here, Walker Tea Review, and we're going to do something a little bit fun, a little bit different today. It's always fun to kind of challenge myself too. So today we've got two Anji, which is a location in China in well, suddenly this has escaped my memory. I believe it's Zhejiang province. But anyway, I'll confirm that. There's a map, link for a map at the bottom. But what we want to talk about is we have two different kinds. There is the twisted kind that we're going to be talking about, which is the leaves are actually twisted along the length of the leaf, along the main vein. And then we have this other kind, which is also a kind of Anji. Both of them are considered Anji baichas, but this one is a flatter pan-fired, and we'll look at pictures of that in a few minutes. But this is similar to a longjing shape. So this is going to be an interesting comparison. Same location, by using the name Anji, we're saying that this is a similar terroir. This is a wine term, a tasting term to talk about it should have the same taste of the earth. It should have the same mineral grew in the same ground, so it should have similar characteristics. So let's talk a little bit about, we're going to kind of experiment here and see, do these have a similar taste, and see if or how processing made a difference in effect. So we have two cups of the same size. We're trying to use similar processes here so that we can compare. Okay, and this water has been brought to a near boil and allowed to cool slightly because these are green teas. We do want to give them a slightly lower temperature, around 180. So we're going to give these guys some steep time here. Okay. We have our Gaiwan style with our lids on both sides. Now, one of the things I want to do, I'm going to add a little bit more water because one of the characteristic ways is to add water and cap the lid, or put the lid on, so that a little bit of water rises up above the lid and creates a seal. Yes, there is our seal for this one. And I had to use a substitute lid for this one, but that will kind of give us I'm going to actually overflow a little bit on this one. And I'm going to, because that's going to be tricky when I try to touch, so I'm going to pour just a little bit off. There we go, and soak it up with our handy tea towel. We still have a seal around the edge though, which is what our original goal was to begin with. Let's give those a moment now to cool, or to steep I should say. But one of the tricks also about a gaiwan, of course, is that when you add hot water, those rims, you want to be careful because those rims can get quite warm. Okay. I also have another element to just a cup, because when I taste, and the aftertaste can stay with you and affect the taste of the other one. So I'm going to try a little something different. I'm going to taste, not swallow, and spit into my cup here, so that I can try to be a little more, hopefully a little more fair in the tasting. So let's put that aside. Now again, we have the Bai Pian, white flake or white piece that we have in this cup. This one is from Grand Teas. These are both, again, teas from the same location. What else can I tell you? A lot of times this will look like a dragon well, if you're familiar with the dragon well tea, and sometimes it's even called, the Chinese term is actually white dragon well, but Anji is a different location, although close by to where longjing dragon well tea comes from. So we have this kind. We also have our Adagio teas, green Anji. And again, this one is, even comparing the colors, we have a darker, richer, deeper green with our twisted leaf here, compared to our brighter colored, flatter Anji green or Anji baicha from Grand Teas. The other thing that you may know, the word bai, Anji bai, bai means white, So there's the tendency to believe this is a white tea, but most of your classifications, your main original Chinese classification, would still consider these green because of the process that takes place. And your white teas are more often associated or have more tips, buds, which gives them that white color as well, that white characteristic. A silver needle, for example, is a white that has gone through virtually no oxidation process. Okay, now we're going to take off the lids. We've given them some time. We're going to look, and yes, we have something to kind of talk about. We've gotten some steepage here. Now I could be see how skilled I really am if I can pour two at the same time, so that these teas got basically the same or similar amount of steep. Well, actually I poured this one a little sooner, so it would be more fair to serve this one first and then pour the other one. So there's that. Get a nice opening so that we have enough space that the liquid can get through, the liquor, and hopefully leave the leaves behind, or most of the leaves. Sometimes you still get some little bits that will seep through. Okay, now let us push these aside, and that way we can talk a little bit about what we have in our cups. Now, let's talk a little about smell, aromas here. Yeah, getting a strong beany smell, and this one is our Grand Teas. I'm just looking at the color to make sure I've got it right. Yeah, this is our Grand Tea. This is our Bai Pian, the flat one, and that's often caused by the pan firing or searing that's actually pressing down in a warm or hot wok. So if you were to look at these, you would notice what a bright, vibrant color you have. While they were a strong green, a pretty youthful looking tender green color in our package, when you steep them they become even more vibrant. This is almost a glowing light green with a strong rich green vein running down the length of the leaf. You also notice that we've got leaves that are, or you should actually see two leaves or a leaf. Yeah, this is a tip or a bud and a leaf. That's a good sign. We like tips, buds like that. That's a good characteristic. This could be another. So the same. Yeah, there's I believe that looks like another bud. Yeah, trapped in that leaf. So we do have that characteristic. This is what I've come to know as far as the color, the smells. Again, a little bit of a green bean with a hint of sweetness similar to a sweet pea. Okay, so let's cap that because I just kind of like to save that for later. Let's look at this one though. This one is this one's a darker green. I'm getting a hint of sweetness, but not as pronounced as this one. I'm getting a little bit of less of the green bean smell in this one. Although present, not as pronounced. Okay. Our leaf shape, actually, because of the way this one was processed or handled, some of these leaves did not. They had been wrapped quite tightly, actually, and so you can't really tell much about the leaves because they're still all crinkled up. The advantage of a wrinkled or crinkled leaf like that doesn't fully open the first time, you are likely to get more punch, more value, more taste out of the second steeping, because when you loosen up, when you open up like this one did, and you just spill your wad on the first shot there. And the second one, you've got something that you may want to come back to, try 2, 3, maybe 4 times. You'll have to try that for yourself to see if you can enjoy a fourth steeping. Use a smaller amount or use a smaller amount of volume of water, smaller cup, you could tease out a fourth steep. Okay? Now we have our liquids. Our liquid colors, as you look at those, quite similar. It kind of gives us an indication that we used, you saw we didn't actually weigh these teas out. So we likely used a similar volume. At least that's how it looks in the teaspoon, the serving. Okay, and you got a similar color there. Give these boys some time. Now this one I poured first, so I'm going to taste it first. Yeah, I'm still getting consistent. I'm getting some of the bean, but I'm getting a little bit more of the pronounced sweet pea. So this makes me feel that this one's going to be a delicate, a sweetness to it. Let's see. Yeah, what I'm finding is, yes, there is just a tad of astringency. There's just a very fleeting moment of kind of a I should say, a little bit of a bitterness, but just a pinch. And it was more detected in the aftertaste. It did have sweet pea type element, and the broth, the texture was gentle. It was a coating sensation. And it didn't dissipate into like a wateriness, so it was light, but it didn't fade away and become, unpalatable. Let's give this one a try. Yeah. Now this one. Again, this one had a gentle element to it as well. It actually had a little bit more of a punch, a little bit more of a push on the astringency, which which kind of gave it a fuller, I should say, a fuller bouquet, a fuller feel to it. In that, but at the same time, the astringency, I should say, compensated for some of the lack of the other flavors or aromas that could have been detected compared to this one. So if I had to look at the two together, same location as far as origin, processing or handling of it apparently different because you had different leaf colors and shapes as far as the dry leaf. But when you get down to the actual drinking of them, you had a few differences that were interesting. Here on one side, you had a stronger, a bit of a sweet vegetable, sweet pea taste that was more present in this one. You had a texture to it that was smooth, that didn't dissipate. You had a very gentle touch of astringency that just kind of popped up there at the last. So this one seemed to be a more delicate one. This one, on the other hand, again, this was Adagio's compared to what we just looked at, which was Grand Teas. Adagio's had a rounder profile, or rounder is not an accurate term, but I would say the astringency kind of compensated or pulled out. Compensate would be the better word. To compensate for the other flavors that were not present in this one. So this one had a lower profile of the sweet pea. It didn't have any of the green bean aspect to it though, and the texture did kind of dissipate more so on this one. So I would say the texture of this one was a little bit stronger, but to each his own. You kind of have to experiment, compare from different locations so that you can get a feel of which one you believe is a more mature, developed tea, which one fits better with your tastes. Okay, so again, we've looked at and compared two Anji Baichas, one from Grand Teas, one from Adagio, and we saw that they had different processing styles. Tell us about your experiments. What teas are you comparing? What discoveries are you making? I'm Jason Walker. This is Walker Tea Review.